The sun of Xerax 9 was not a sun, it was a burning brand, a molten coin hammered flat across the sky, pressing its weight upon the wasteland. Heat shimmered in waves, and every grain of sand cut like glass against skin. To live here was to be forged in fire, and Derek was already more scar than flesh. He stood alone in the cracked basin, fists clenched, blood drying black on his knuckles. Around him lay the broken bodies of the Vralic raiders, scaled, tusked, and armored in scavenged iron. Their weapons had clattered into the dust, useless against a man who fought not with steel, but with fury. One raider still crawled, hissing through shattered fangs. Derek strode forward, seized the creature by the jaw, and with a grunt, tore its head aside. Bone split, tendons snapped. Silence followed. The desert claimed the sound as if it had never existed. Breath rasped through his throat. His chest rose and fell, each inhale dragging fire into his lungs. He spat blood, wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, and scanned the horizon. More would come. They always did. Vralic packs hunted like wolves, circling, testing, returning. Survival meant never standing still. But today felt different. Derek's instincts, honed by war and sharpened by loss, stirred. He felt eyes upon him. Not hostile, not yet, but watching. Measuring. The wind shifted, carrying with it the faint scent of something alien and sweet, crystalline, almost musical against the stench of blood. His hand hovered near the hilt of a scavenged blade, but his body did not move. For the first time in months, perhaps years, the desert did not feel empty. Something, or someone, had seen him fight. She had been there the whole time, hidden among the shattered pillars of an ancient outpost, her form cloaked by a shimmer of light. Princess Serena of the Celestari, warrior of the starlit courts, watched the human carve through the raiders with nothing but his hands. Her people had fought the Vralic for centuries, wielding blades of crystal, ships of light, and wisdom that spanned galaxies. Yet here was a lone man of flesh and scar, breaking monsters apart as if rage itself were a weapon. Brutal. Terrible. Magnificent. Her silver blue eyes narrowed, tracing the scars across his chest, the way his shoulders carried both pain and pride. He was no machine, no engineered soldier. He was raw survival, standing tall in the furnace of Xerax 9 where others burned to ash. Serena's heart, disciplined by years of training, stumbled once. The whisper slipped from her lips before she could summon restraint. "I wish he was my husband." The words vanished into the wind, but in her chest they rang like a vow. The man shifted suddenly, his head lifting, eyes scanning the ruins. He felt her presence. Even from a distance, she saw the feral sharpness in his gaze, eyes that had seen too much death yet refused to close. Serena stepped from the shadow of the pillars, letting her cloak dissolve into sparks. Sunlight struck her armor, flowing like liquid sapphire across her body. Her long braid shimmered with threads of starlight, her movements precise yet fluid. Derek froze. His grip tightened on the bloodied blade at his hip. For a moment, the desert seemed to hold its breath as the warrior and the princess faced one another, two worlds colliding in silence. Derek's hand hovered over the hilt of the scavenged blade, knuckles white. The figure before him was no raider, no scavenger. She gleamed like the mirage of a goddess stepped out of legend, armor flowing with sapphire light, eyes bright as twin moons. Too perfect for a world of dust and blood. "Stay where you are," he growled, voice rough as gravel. "I don't trust shadows that walk like royalty." Serena tilted her head, unafraid. "And yet you stand surrounded by corpses you made with your bare hands. Tell me, human, why should I fear you?" The heat shimmered between them, a curtain of fire. Derek spat into the sand. "Because I'm the last thing that survives when everything else is dead." Her lips curved, not in mockery, but in something softer. Fascination. Then perhaps you are exactly what I seek. He frowned, squinting against the glare. Seek? Out here? What could a shining star princess want with a half-broken man bleeding in the dirt? Serena stepped closer, the glow of her armor painting his scars in blue fire. I watched you fight. Not with precision. Not with grace. With will. My people have warriors, yes, but few with hearts forged in such flame. I find myself drawn. Derek barked a laugh, dry and bitter. Drawn? To this? He spread his arms, showing the blood, the scars, the jagged ruin of a body. You've mistaken me for something noble. I'm just a beast that refuses to die. Her gaze didn't waver. Even beasts can be kings. And perhaps, her voice lowered, almost a whisper, husbands. The desert fell silent again. Derek stared at her, stunned by the absurdity, the audacity. A princess, speaking of marriage to a scarred brute? And yet deep in his chest, something long buried stirred. The silence between them shattered with a tremor beneath the sand. At first it was a whispered grains trickling, stones rattling, but then the ground shook with the steady rhythm of thunder. Derek's instincts snapped awake. He knew that sound. Get down, he barked. Serena didn't move. Her eyes narrowed, scanning the horizon. Over the rise came a shadow of steel and bone, a Vralic warcrawler, hulking and grotesque, its frame stitched together from scavenged wreckage and living sinew. 8 legs gouged the desert floor, each step sending shockwaves through the basin. Rusted cannons jutted from its spine, oozing smoke. Derek's jaw clenched. Of course. Where there's blood, the carrion follows. Serena summoned a spear of crystalline light from her wrist bracer. It hummed, singing like a blade forged from starlight. She glanced at him, lips curved in a sharp smile. Show me again what kind of beast you are. The crawler roared, a sound of grinding gears mixed with bestial shrieks, as hatches split open and Vralic soldiers poured out. Their jagged armor caught the sun, their guttural cries echoing off the cliffs. Derek gripped the scavenged blade, its edge dull but serviceable. He spat dust and squared his shoulders. Fine. But when I die, don't say I didn't warn you. You won't die, Serena said firmly, spinning her spear into guard. Not while I fight beside you. The crawler's front cannon flared, unleashing a streak of molten fire that turned half the basin into a smoking crater. Sand boiled, bodies smoked. The air filled with the stink of burning stone. Derek charged anyway. Serena followed, her spear a comet of light at his side. Beast and princess, fury and grace hurtling together into the maw of war. The first wave struck like a tide of claws and steel. Vralic soldiers surged from the warcrawler, shrieking their guttural battle cries, blades flashing in the desert glare. Derek met them head-on. His blade was crude, chipped, but it cut well enough when driven by rage. He smashed the first raider's jaw with the hilt, pivoted, and rammed steel through another's throat. Blood sprayed hot against his chest. Beside him, Serena moved like liquid light. Her crystalline spear hummed with every strike, slicing clean through armor as though it were cloth. Where Derek roared, she was silent. Where he crushed bone, she severed with precision. Their contrast was startling, yet together they carved a path through the swarm. One raider lunged at Derek's back. Serena's spear struck before it could land, pinning the creature to the sand. He glanced at her, a flash of surprise in his hard eyes. She gave no words, only a nod. Fine, he growled. We fight. They pressed forward. Derek tore an enemy's arm free and used it to club another. Serena whirled, her braid streaking starlight, her movements as fluid as a dance. The clash of brute force and celestial grace began to overwhelm the Vralik line. But the war crawler itself was not idle. Its legs stabbed deep into the ground, claws anchoring. A hatch split wide, and a blast of molten fire erupted. The shockwave hurled both warriors aside, sand exploding into a fiery storm. Derek coughed, blood in his mouth. His vision swam. Through the haze he saw the massive core glowing at the crawler's chest, its heart throbbing with unstable energy. Serena staggered to her feet, spear raised. "We end it now." Derek bared his teeth, a savage grin splitting his bloodied face. "Then let's tear its damn heart out." And together, they charged the beast. The warcrawler shrieked as its legs pounded the earth, claws ripping deep trenches into the sand. Cannons spat fire, tearing the desert into craters of molten glass. Derek charged through the inferno, ignoring the heat blistering his skin. He vaulted onto a shattered slope of rock, then leapt onto the crawler's armor. His blade sparked uselessly against its plates, so he dropped it and did what he always did, used his bare hands. With a roar, he drove his fists into the seams of the machine, tearing at cables, ripping steel like sinew. Sparks spat across his arms, scorching flesh. Still, he pulled until the crawler screamed, its chest plate splitting open to reveal the throbbing, unstable core. "Now!" Serena's voice cut through the chaos. She hurled her spear of light. It shot true, piercing the glowing heart. The crawler convulsed, a beast of flesh and machine dying in agony. Its legs thrashed, its cannons erupted one last time, then the entire thing collapsed in a storm of fire and shrapnel. Derek was hurled clear, crashing into the sand with bone-cracking force. The sky above split open not with fire, but with brilliance. A Celestari vessel descended, its hull gleaming like silver carved from the moon. Serena raised her hand, signaling. The ship obeyed, its hatches yawning wide. She strode to Derek, offering her arm. "On your feet, warrior. You fought enough dirt for one lifetime." Derek spat blood, groaned, and let her pull him up. "Don't tell me we're flying in that thing." Her smile curved sharp and certain. "We are not flying. We are leaving this world behind." As the vessel lifted, sandstorms swirled below, burying the wreck of the crawler. For the first time in years, Derek rose higher than the desert sky toward stars he thought he'd never see again. The hum of the Celestari vessel was unlike any sound Derek had ever known. Smooth, constant, almost soothing, like the heartbeat of something alive. After years of sandstorms, gunfire, and screams, the silence felt heavier than war. Serena led him through corridors of gleaming crystal and silver, where light flowed along the walls like liquid stars. To Derek, it was too clean, too perfect. His boots tracked blood across the polished floor, a smear of dirt on a world that wasn't his. She stopped before a chamber where blue light shimmered on the air. At its center was a pool of luminous water, glowing faintly as though the stars themselves had melted into liquid. "You're broken," she said softly, not unkind. "Let the waters mend what the desert has stolen." Derek snorted. "I don't mend. I endure." But his legs betrayed him, trembling beneath his weight. He sank to his knees beside the pool. Serena touched a panel, and the waters stirred. He slid into their warmth, bracing for pain. Instead, the liquid cradled him, cool and soothing. His wounds began to knit, scars softening under the glow. For the first time in years, the ache in his bones dulled. His breath came easier. He closed his eyes, surrendering, if only for a moment. Serena knelt by the pool's edge, watching his chest rise and fall. She traced his face with her gaze, the lines of suffering, the strength carved into every scar. This was no ordinary man. He was fire that refused to burn out. Derek opened one eye, catching her stare. Careful, princess. Look too long, you'll start believing I'm worth something. Her lips curved in a rare, unguarded smile. Perhaps I already do. The rejuvenation pool left Derek whole again, but strangely uneasy. His scars had faded, muscles eased, and the constant throb of pain in his ribs was gone. For a man used to living with wounds, the absence felt almost unnatural. Serena handed him a simple gray tunic, its fabric light as air. Better, she asked. Better than I've felt in years, he admitted, flexing his hands. Almost don't feel like me. You are still you, she said firmly. But you deserve to know what it feels like to be whole again. She led him to the observation deck where the stars stretched endless beyond the glass. 2 cups waited, filled with a golden liquid that fizzed and shimmered as though alive. She handed him one. What's this? He asked, sniffing cautiously. Star drink, she said. Fermented blossoms from my world. 1 sip, and you'll dream in color. He raised an eyebrow. Sounds dangerous. He drank anyway, then nearly coughed it back up. Tastes like a lemon set on fire. Serena laughed, the sound bright as crystal. You'll grow to like it. For a while, they simply sat in silence, the universe flowing past. Then, slowly, words began to spill. Derek spoke of Earth, the oceans he'd never see again, the sister he'd lost in the war, the years of fighting with nothing but grit and rage. His voice roughened when he mentioned New Carthage, but he did not break. In return, Serena told him of Luminar, a world of crystal forests and rivers that sang at dawn, of a mother who died defending the helpless, and a throne she never asked to inherit. When their eyes met, the weight of their stories hung between them. 2 souls scarred by loss, yet still standing. You carry ghosts, she whispered. So do you, he replied. Her silver eyes softened. Then perhaps we can carry them together. The days in hyperspace passed in a strange rhythm of silence, laughter, and shared meals. But all of it came to an end when the ship finally slowed, stars shifting back into pinpricks of light. Before them hung Luminar. Derek froze at the sight. The planet gleamed like a jewel suspended in the void, vast oceans glowing with bioluminescent life, continents shaped like spirals, and floating cities that glimmered like constellations brought to life. Bridges of pure light connected the towers, and ships shaped like silver birds glided gracefully through the skies. Beautiful, he whispered without thinking. Serena's lips curved into a proud smile. My home. The descent was smooth, the ship weaving through air lanes alive with vessels of every size. But as they approached the grand spire, the heart of Celestari governance, Derek felt the weight settle on his shoulders. The spire rose like a mountain of crystal and silver, piercing the clouds, glowing with inner light. When the ship landed on a terrace, guards in flowing armor awaited. Their eyes, sharp and unyielding, flicked over Derek with barely disguised disdain. He caught the whispers: outsider, brute, savage. Inside, the council chamber was colder still. A vast hall lined with statues of past rulers, filled with elders draped in robes of shifting colors. At the center sat Elder Valen, his gaze as sharp as a blade. This, he said, voice dripping contempt, is the human you bring before us? A man who reeks of blood and chaos? Derek crossed his arms. Nice to meet you too. Gasps rippled through the chamber, but Serena's chin lifted high. He is brave. He is loyal. He is strong beyond measure. And he fought not for conquest, but for life. The council murmured, doubtful. Valen leaned forward, lips curling. Then let him prove it. Let the human face the trial of the ancients. If he survives, he may stand beside you. If not, his gaze cut to Derek like a knife. Then your judgment is as flawed as your heart. Serena's jaw tightened. That trial is not meant for outsiders. He has no training in our ways. Then he will die, Valen replied coolly. The hall went silent. All eyes turned to Derek. He smirked, rolling his shoulders. Guess I've been called worse. Fine. I'll do it. Serena's breath caught. Derek. He shot her a crooked grin. He called me a brute. Might as well give him a show. The arena of echoes was unlike anything Derek had ever seen. Carved into the side of a mountain, it stretched wide and deep, its floor polished smooth as glass. Strange runes glowed faintly across the stone, whispering in a language he could not understand. From the stands above, thousands of sci-fi-stories watched. Their silver eyes gleamed like stars, some curious, most doubtful. Serena stood among them, her hands clenched tight at her sides. At the center of the arena, Derek stood alone. No weapon. No armor. Only the trial. A voice boomed from the chamber walls, not spoken by any elder but by the arena itself. 3 tests: strength, wisdom, spirit. Only through balance shall the worthy prevail. The ground shifted. From hidden alcoves, steel pendulums swung out, blades gleaming. The gauntlet of blades. Derek gritted his teeth. This was no time for hesitation. He sprinted forward, weaving between the arcs of metal. A blade sliced his arm, another grazed his side, but he pushed on. Timing became instinct. His world narrowed to movement, breath, survival. With a final dive, he rolled clear, sweat dripping from his brow. Gasps rose from the crowd. The pendulums vanished, the floor rearranging itself into a chamber of pillars. Shadows coiled between them, whispering words he couldn't understand. The puzzle of whispers. Stones glowed faintly, some bright, some dim. He frowned. Great. A riddle game. From the stands, Serena began humming. A low, steady tune they had shared aboard her ship. Derek stilled, listening. The whispers shifted, aligning with her melody. He pressed the glowing stones in rhythm. One by one, the path cleared. He exhaled, muttering, "Guess I'm smarter than I look." The third and final test came with silence. The arena darkened. Mist swirled, and figures emerged, his squad from years past. Faces he knew. Friends he'd lost. Their eyes burned with accusation. "You left us," one cried. "You weren't strong enough," another spat. The weight of guilt dropped him to his knees. His scars throbbed, his chest constricted. He wanted to run, but his legs would not move. Then, her voice. Clear. Steady. "Serena. You did not fail. You lived. You fought so others could. That is not weakness. That is honor." He looked up, tears burning his eyes. The phantoms wavered, then faded into nothing. Silence. Then the arena blazed with light. Trial complete. Worthy. The stands erupted in murmurs. Even the elders could not deny it. Derek rose slowly, chest heaving, sweat and blood streaking his skin. He wasn't just a brute, not here. Not anymore. He was chosen. The night sky of Luminar was alive with light. Twin moons hung high, their glow spilling across crystalline terraces and rivers that shimmered like liquid starlight. Lanterns of silver flame floated upward, each one carrying blessings whispered by the people. Derek stood at the edge of the crystal terrace, dressed not in armor but in a robe of simple gray trimmed with silver threads. He shifted uneasily, his scarred hands tugging at the cuffs. He had faced beasts, war machines, and even his own ghosts, but standing here, before the entire Celestari people, made his chest tighten in ways no battle ever had. And then he saw her. Serena walked the terrace with the grace of dawn itself. Her gown shimmered with shifting hues, sapphire and silver entwined, her hair braided with strands of starlight. She was radiant, but not untouchable. Her eyes were locked on him, soft and unwavering. For the first time, he believed she wasn't a princess first. She was his. The priests began their song, voices layered in harmonies that seemed to vibrate with the stars themselves. But there were no long vows, no rigid rituals. Instead, as was XSci-Story custom, they were asked only to speak their truth. Serena's voice rang clear, strong. I choose you, Derek. Not because you are perfect, but because you are real. Because when the universe burns, you stand in the fire. The crowd murmured, her words striking deep. Derek swallowed hard. For once, no sarcasm came to his lips. I choose you, Serena. Because you saw me, not just the fighter, not just the scars, but the man underneath. And you loved him anyway. Their hands clasped. Light erupted from the terrace floor, spiraling upward, encasing them in a pillar of shimmering brilliance. The energy bound them, not just as partners, but as souls joined. The crowd erupted in cheers. The priests declared them bonded. And as the moons bathed them in silver, Derek leaned down, pressing a kiss to her lips, clumsy, human, and utterly real. Serena smiled against him. My husband, she whispered. Derek smirked softly. Guess I'm royalty now. Wonder if they serve beer in crystal goblets. Her laugh rang across the terrace, bright and unshakable. The celebrations stretched for days. Luminar's streets overflowed with song and silver banners, and the people danced beneath the twin moons until dawn. For the first time in years, Derek allowed himself to feel peace. But peace did not last. The throne hall was nothing like the desert sands or the battlefield. Here, power was not taken with fists but balanced with words and glances sharper than any blade. Derek hated it instantly. He sat beside Serena on the high dais, his new role as consort king making the air around him heavy. The elders filed in, bowing to her but sparing him only thin, skeptical nods. Their whispers echoed like gnats in his ears. Too human. Too savage. He cannot guide us. Derek clenched his jaw, fingers curling on the armrest, but Serena's hand slipped into his, grounding him. She spoke with authority, her voice carrying through the chamber like the strike of a bell. The human you doubt is the warrior who destroyed the Vralic crawler, who survived the ancient's trial, and who now stands as my equal. If you question him, you question me. Silence followed. None dared answer her directly. Yet Derek could feel the resistance coiling beneath their stillness, like serpents waiting for the dark. Later, in the quiet of their private chambers, Derek exhaled heavily. I'm not built for councils, Serena. Put me in front of an army, I'll fight it. Put me in front of a room full of smug old men, and all I want to do is break their jaws, she finished, amused. He gave a crooked grin. Exactly. She touched his cheek, her silver eyes soft. You are not here to be them, Derek. You are here to be you. Strength, loyalty, fire. That is enough. Before he could answer, the chamber doors rattled with urgency. A guard burst in, bowing low. My queen. My king. Scouts report movement along the outer rim. The Vralic, they are not gone. They are gathering again. The warmth of the wedding, the joy of the people, it all chilled in an instant. Derek rose, fists tightening. Good. Let them come. Serena's gaze hardened, starlight flashing in her eyes. This time, we will not wait. This time, we take the fight to them. The war halls of Luminar blazed with activity. Crystal maps floated in the air, showing shifting clusters of enemy movement along the outer rim. Armies were summoned from across the star systems, warriors in silver armor, fleets of radiant ships, banners of light unfurled for battle. Derek stood among them, an outsider no longer. His presence alone drew stares, but not with contempt now. Many whispered his name with awe, for they had heard the tales: the human who crushed the war-crawler with his bare hands, who survived the trial of the ancients, who won the heart of their princess. Still, he knew whispers didn't win wars. Grit did. On the training fields, he drilled beside the XSci-Stories soldiers. Their style was elegance, measured, precise, each movement like a dance. His was brutality, direct, raw, every strike meant to end a fight quickly. At first, they clashed. His roars jarred against their silence, his fists against their blades. But slowly, something shifted. The XSci-Stories began to learn from him short, brutal strikes to complement their flowing forms. In return, he borrowed their grace, weaving efficiency into his brawling strength. Two worlds fusing into one rhythm. Serena trained with him often. Her spear was a streak of light, his fists the thunder that followed. Together, they were chaos and harmony, destruction and beauty. Watching them spar was like watching a storm given form. One evening, as the suns of Luminar sank and the training fields quieted, she approached him, sweat shining on her skin. "They believe in you now," she said softly. "They believe in us," he corrected, brushing dirt from his hands. Her smile lingered, but it didn't erase the worry in her eyes. "The Vralik won't come as raiders this time. They will come as an empire. And we," she trailed off, looking at the stars. He stepped closer, placing a scarred hand on her shoulder. "Then we'll remind them what happens when fire meets starlight." In the shadows beyond the training grounds, unseen, a figure watched. Cloaked, silent, eyes glimmering with secrets. Not all who stood within Luminar's walls wanted the human king to succeed. The High Council chamber was heavy with the scent of crystal incense and the low hum of power. The elders sat in their crescent seats, eyes glimmering like polished stones. Serena stood tall before them, Derek at her side. Maps of the outer rim flickered in the air, glowing with Vralik movements. "Their fleets gather faster than expected," Serena declared. "If we wait, we will be surrounded. We must strike first." Murmurs rippled. Some nodded. Others frowned. And one elder Valen watched her with that same razor-sharp gaze, unreadable, calculating. "The princess would drag us into open war," Valen said smoothly. "Against an empire whose numbers grow beyond measure. Perhaps a wiser course is negotiation." "Negotiation?" Derek barked. "You saw what they did on the desert world. You think they want peace? They want blood." Gasps spread through the chamber at his bluntness, but Serena lifted her chin. "My husband is right. The Vralik will never yield. If we delay, they will strike first, and Luminar will burn." Still, Valen's lips curved in a thin smile. "We shall deliberate further." The council adjourned, robes whispering as they filed out. But Derek caught it, the flicker of a look between Valen and another elder, subtle as a knife's glint in the dark. That night, in the halls of the spire, a guard approached Serena in secret. His voice trembled. "My queen, forgive me, but I overheard whispers." Elder Valen, speaking with a Vralik envoy. A deal made in shadows. Serena's blood ran cold. "What deal?" "I could not hear all," the guard admitted. "But I caught one phrase: the human must fall." Rage boiled in Derek's chest, but Serena caught his arm before he stormed off. Her silver eyes burned. "No. We cannot expose him without proof. If we strike too soon, the council will fracture. Derek snarled. So we wait while a snake coils in the throne room? She leaned close, her voice low, fierce. We wait. And we watch. When he moves, we strike and end him. Above Luminar, unseen by all, Vralic warships gathered in the void. And within the halls of the spire, the serpents smiled in the dark. The warning bells shattered the night. From the palace terrace, Derek looked up and saw the sky split open. Dozens of Vralic warships poured from the void, their black hulls bristling with claws of steel, their cannons glowing with molten fire. Sirens wailed through Luminar's crystalline streets as citizens fled, their silver lanterns snuffed out by shadows of war. They're here, Derek muttered, fists tightening. Serena's voice rang with command, clear and sharp. To arms! All fleets, defend the capital. Shield the spire. The sky lit as Celestari ships launched, sleek and radiant, their hulls trailing starlight. The first volleys met in the heavens above, turning night into a storm of fire. But the enemy had not come for the skies alone. A thunderous crash shook the spire as Vralic boarding craft slammed into the city streets. Raiders poured out, armored in jagged steel, their guttural cries ripping through the night. Blades clashed against crystal, fire against light. Derek grabbed a fallen warrior's blade, spinning it in his hands. Time to get my hands dirty. He hurled himself into the fray, cutting through raiders with brutal precision. One swung an axe, he ducked, drove his fist into the raider's gut, then cleaved his throat with the blade. Another lunged, and Derek met him with a roar, slamming steel through armor until sparks flew. Beside him, Serena was starlight incarnate, her spear weaving arcs of deadly brilliance. Every strike was perfect, every motion fluid. Together, they moved as one, fire and starlight, chaos and grace, carving through the invaders. But amidst the battle, Derek caught sight of something that froze him. A squad of raiders wasn't charging the streets. They were heading straight for the spire itself, straight for the council chambers. And at their lead, Elder Valen, cloaked in shadow, guiding them inside. Derek snarled. The snake shows his fangs. Serena's eyes blazed with fury. Then tonight, we cut off his head. Above, the moons of Luminar burned red in the smoke-choked sky. The war for the crystal world had begun. The crystal halls of the spire shook with the thunder of battle. The clash of steel echoed up the stairwells as raiders stormed through, their guttural cries clashing with the Celestari guards' defiant shouts. Derek and Serena fought their way upward, cutting down invaders as they went. Blood streaked across the once pristine walls, banners torn, pillars cracked. What had been the heart of Luminar's pride was now its battlefield. At the Grand Council chamber doors, they found them, Valen and his chosen guard of raiders. The Elder's once serene robes were cast aside, replaced by blackened armor trimmed with jagged steel. His silver eyes glowed with an unnatural fire, corrupted by Vralic power. You dare bring filth to our halls? Serena's voice rang with fury. You would betray your own world? Valen sneered, his voice a cold rasp. Luminar has grown weak with mercy. The Vralic bring strength, order. I would rather kneel to them than watch our people crumble under your softness. Derek spat blood on the floor. Then you're just another coward hiding behind pretty words. Valen raised a jagged blade, pulsing with dark energy. And you are nothing but an animal wearing a crown. The raiders surged forward. Steel met starlight. Derek roared as he cleaved through one attacker, fists and blade working in brutal tandem. Serena's spear shone, piercing through armor, scattering foes with deadly precision. At last, only Valen remained. He struck at Serena with unnatural speed, his blade humming with corruption. Sparks flew as her spear clashed against it, light against shadow. Derek lunged in, grabbing Valen by the throat, slamming him into a crystal pillar. "This is what your strength looks like," he growled. "Selling out your people for scraps?" Valen snarled, power surging through him. A blast of dark energy hurled Derek across the chamber. Serena caught him before he hit the ground, then spun, her spear finding the gap in Valen's armor. The traitor gasped, eyes wide. Silver light flared through him, burning away the corruption. For a heartbeat, his face was that of the elder he once was. Then he crumbled to ash. Silence fell. Derek exhaled hard, leaning on his blade. One snake down. But the war's just starting. Serena's eyes lifted to the shattered ceiling, where fire streaked across the sky. "Then we fight until Luminar shines brighter than their darkness." And together, they turned toward the battle that still raged beyond the spire's walls. The battle for Luminar raged through the night, but when dawn broke, the skies cleared. The Vralic fleet, broken and scattered, fled into the void. Their shadows lifted, leaving the crystal world scarred but still standing. On the palace terrace, Derek stood beside Serena, their hands clasped, their eyes fixed on the horizon. The people gathered below, raising banners of silver flame in triumph. No longer was he the outsider, the brute, the human. Now he was their warrior king, scarred, imperfect, but chosen. Serena turned to him, her voice soft but certain. "This was only the beginning. The Vralic will rise again. But together." He finished for her, a crooked grin tugging at his lips. "Together, we'll burn them down." Her laugh rang bright, carried on the morning wind. And beneath the twin suns of Luminar, fire and starlight stood united, two souls forged by war, bound by love, and ready to face whatever darkness the universe would bring.